Saint John Vianney, because he was a simple saint. He was a
Yep.
very simple guy, and
he was not a tremendous intellectual. He wasn't given to flights of fancy. He didn't have, as I say, a great imagination. And mind you, people saw the things going on around.
yeah,
He didn't say much about it on his own, but people would observe it.
yeah. But it's important to know a great deal of the faith in order to defend it. But at the same time, I feel sometimes we over-intellectualize everything. And sometimes I wonder how beneficial it would be to sometimes have the perspective of simpler saints, like St. John Vianney. I think this type of approach is how you become a child of God, totally trusting, totally dependent. What is your take on that? This simple approach versus perhaps a more intellectual, philosophical approach.
Well, I mean, obviously, one of the great reasons for the difficulties of the church in our time has been our reduction of the faith to a set of intellectual propositions. And that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
But you do need both.
Ah.
You see, you need the faith of a St. John Vianney, and you need the intellectuality of a St. Thomas Aquinas. You need them both in tandem. It's not like, well, is he Bonaventure or St. Thomas? Which one?
No?
Both. Aristotle versus Plato? Both. Byzantine versus Latin?
Ooh.
Both.
Ah.
The totality is necessary. It's what mutatis mutandis, it's St. John Paul II's comparison of East and West as breathing with both lungs.
Yes, I love that.
Because these different things act as correctives on each other's excesses. See, remember, we're dealing, basically, when we're dealing with the faith, we're dealing with what is, humanly speaking, inexplicable. You just can't do it.
Yeah.
But we have to try. However, being human, our attempts will fail, and they'll fail according to our own personal personality shifts, our own manner of being. And so, the insights of those who do not share those are necessary. We correct them, they correct us. You're very, very mystical, and you go off into the netherworld. I'm all about social justice, and I demand that there be freedom now. Well, we're both needed. Without me, your faith is going to be totally irrelevant, and without you, mine is going to be completely unreligious. It has to be in tandem.
Gosh, there's a lot of people who don't want to hear that. We need social justice warriors?
We do need social justice warriors, but they have to be doing it for the sake of the kingdom.
Ah, there we go. Okay.
This goes back. In other words, our model is not Marx, but Christ.
Ah, yes.
That's the thing. And sometimes it's difficult to make these distinctions, especially if we're trying to accomplish something specific. We need allies. Sometimes those allies don't share our first principles.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be social justice. I mean, it's the same with pro-life, which is part of social justice. And it's easy for social justice warriors to forget that, just as it's easy for pro-life people to forget it. But for the opposite reasons. Do you understand? That's why they're both needed.
Yeah.
The Catholic worker should never forget that justice includes right to life. But right to lifers also need to remember that the life that everyone has a right to should be worth living.
Yeah.
I mean, we and our tendency is to focus upon our little bit.
Yeah.
To the neglect of the whole. We can't do that. Because when we do that, we make our little thing an idol. We cut it off from everything else. I mean, you can do this for anything. You can do this with the arts. You can do this with music.
Yeah.
And I'm speaking specifically of church music, church art, church history.
Yeah.
You can make everything an end in itself. But none of these things are intended to be. And they're all meant to be connected. ideally, if someone like, oh, I don't know myself, is working in church history, he should be doing it with the goal of making it easier thereby for his fellow Catholics to lead a Catholic life and save their souls. And ditto everything else.
Yeah.
Just given whatever the person's specific interest and or discipline might be.
Yeah. Okay.
Even ghosts.